Hello, everyone. My name is Margaret, and after being manipulated by my insanely rich family, I decided to be homeless instead. Honestly, I didn't really figure out that we were rich until my early teens. Sure, we had drivers and the most expensive cars, but that seemed normal for me. Everybody I met, everybody I went to school with, kind of lived the same lifestyle. So I just figured that this was how everyone in every place in the world lived. When I encountered real life, and I mean real children going to sleep hungry life, I was shocked. But the strangest things happened way before that. When I was just about 10 years old, my older brother, 18 at the time, was being groomed to be the heir of the business, and my parents were going crazy, searching for a wife that would be the right fit. That was the first time I'd ever heard them mentioning pure blood. They were fighting all around the house. My brother walking away from them, shouting, my parents following and berating him. He kept saying that this was crap. He didn't want it. There was a girl that he liked and all that. My mom stopped him, gently touched his cheeks, and said, "No need to dirty our lineage, darling. You're wasting your time." By that age, I didn't really know what pure and dirty meant. It took me years to understand what they actually meant was the same social class. The cream of the crop of the wealthy people, the ones that were going to make us richer. My brother finally reconciled. He gave up fighting and accepted his fate. But at the same time, he became angrier and angrier, aggressive even. He had a public face that was very diplomatic and perfect, but at home, he was the devil. But then again, that's when one of my family secrets got revealed to me. I was hanging around in one of our parlors, looking at these old paintings. He walked up to me. "You know they were cousins, right?" my brother said while pointing at the painting of our grandparents. What? I didn't understand what he meant by that. I knew that, inbreeding was kind of, wrong, so I didn't understand why he would say that. Yeah, our whole family is a bunch of inbreds. Just for the sake of keeping their wealth, keep it in the family? Now sounds a whole lot different, right? His disturbing, depressing laugh echoed through the whole room. I started crying and ran to my bedroom. I cried for a couple of days, remembering what he said, but I didn't tell my parents. My curious mind wondered, what else I didn't know? I was 13 when I started finding out more and more. There was only one person that I trusted in my home. My maid, Jocelyn. I was in the parlor reading an old book I found in one of the studies when she came up to me, smiled, and said, your ancestors belong to this minor royal family in Europe. That's why when they came to the States, they immediately established a business. If I was younger, it probably would have made me fantasize about being a princess. But now, it made me feel dirty. But what actually made the biggest impact was when my maid's kid, Jasper, came into my life. I was 15, and one day, Jocelyn asked him to pick her up. I was playing the piano at that very moment when he came into the room. God, it's like time stopped in the 19th century in this effing house, he said, laughing. I stopped playing, looked up to see this uncultured person who was cursing in my home, and I was struck. I mean, it was love like being struck by lightning. He came into my life and managed to turn it all around. Jasper introduced himself, and I felt my face turning red. He said that he was planning on going to meet his friends and asked if I wanted to come. I wanted to, but I had to decline. I wasn't allowed just to go into the dirty city whenever I wanted. Whatever you want, lady. Even I'd rather give all this expensive junk away than have to limit my freedom. I sighed. I wanted to go with every cell of my body. My parents were somewhere upstairs, so I took a step out of the house and decided, screw it. What's the worst that could happen? We went to the beach to meet his friends. They were all such different, colorful characters, and they were all so educated and empathetic. They kept talking about their pain, their experiences, world hunger, the wars that are happening, corruption. It overwhelmed me and don't laugh, I wasn't really aware that the world had any problems. I mean, mine didn't. That's when I got a call from my parents. My mom was screaming for me to come back home right now. I politely declined. And this one no incited everything horrible that happened during that 1 year. When I finally came back, My parents announced that they were gonna fire Jocelyn for my rebellion. I wasn't to sympathize and engage with those people. I made it my life mission to get educated. I'd sneak into the library and read all these newspapers to find out that my family were part of the corruption that those kids were talking about. They flooded politics with their money and interests. Nothing inherently illegal per se, but they were wrong. Yet anytime I managed to contradict them, somebody else got hurt. First, it was maids. Then they started threatening Jasper. We could easily pay the university to not accept him, you know. That would make you a really bad friend, my mom said. I think that the final drop was when Jasper told me that because my family had fired Jocelyn, they couldn't pay rent, and they were losing their home. They would be homeless. At the same time, my parents hired 2 security guys to pretty much stalk me. They even started installing cameras all over the house and gave me some piece of paper to sign that said something about how I couldn't tell anyone anything. I was done. One night, I packed a suitcase, jumped from the window, and ran away. I literally walked for 15 miles that night, fearing every passing car. In the morning, Jasper picked me up and took me to his home that was pretty much one living room with a bunch of mattresses and a bathroom. But I slept like a baby there, knowing I was safe, and I'd made the right choice. Yet that wasn't the end of my troubles. In the middle of the day, I was woken up by loud banging. "Police!" the men shouted. I opened the door, they asked for my name, and cuffed me. I was told that I was accused of stealing, you'll never guess, from my own family. As they took me to the station, my mom was already waiting there for me. That was the craziest talk I'd ever heard in my life. She sat down next to me and said, "If you really want nothing to do with us and to create a new life, then create a new life. From zero." She confiscated everything, pretty much every piece of clothing I took from home, and told me goodbye. I'm happy to say this was the last I heard from them. But the thing is, Jocelyn couldn't really handle paying the rent and feeding Jasper and I. We were thrown out in about a week. I went from living in a mansion to living on a street with one already torn up outfit. As I was educated as an old school aristocrat lady, I knew how to paint and play the piano. So I took a couple of sheets of paper and started drawing portraits of people on the street. We would barely manage to get food, but at least it was something. Then, one day, I saw a familiar face in the crowd. My big brother. He walked up and asked for a portrait as if he was a stranger. We didn't talk. I finished the portrait. He looked at it, smiled, and gave us a bunch of money. "You managed to escape. Never come back," he said. And that was the last time I saw him. With this money, we managed to find a small place, and all of us got jobs. After a couple of years, Jasper and I both got into a law school, and we dream of being the best lawyers there are. I hope I'll be able to fight for people to be accountable for their actions, no matter how rich they are, and for people to be able to live with dignity, even if they don't have a rich brother to help them. We're all in this together, you know? If any kid is going hungry, scavenging for food, then we all failed.